Mahajer for HAPS News, the network of now. Today, I'll be joined by Miranda Yaver. She's a constitutional scholar, and she's going to join me to discuss the debates last night, the final debates in the series of debates in this 2020 U.S. presidential election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. This is the AM Report. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the program. My name is Alex Mahajer, and this is the AM Report for HAPS News, the network of now. I'll be joined in a minute by Miranda Yaver. She's a constitutional scholar and a postdoctoral scholar at UCLA, and we're going to discuss the presidential debate last night and give you the full recap. But first, a little bit of the news this morning. It looks like 50 million Americans have already voted in the 2020 presidential election, according to the U.S. Elections Project. The coronavirus death toll has topped 1,100 per day, breaking the record in the United States, with total death toll exceeding 223,000 and spikes occurring in rural areas. Senator Lindsey Graham is calling for a legislative probe into his Democratic challenger, Jamie Harrison, who has received $57 million in donations to his U.S. Senate campaign. The donations have all been small individual contributions, and the Senate race in South Carolina is a statistical dead heat. And the Trump supporter has been charged with voter fraud in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, for requesting an absentee ballot to vote for his dead mother. His name is Robert Lynn, and he will be the first person in 30 years to be charged with this crime in that county. But other than these headlines, all of the talk and all of the rage this morning is about the presidential debate last night. And I'd like to welcome Miranda Yaver to the program. Good morning, Miranda.
Good morning, Alex. How are you doing?
Every morning, every time I have you on, we discuss right before. It's like, how are you doing this morning? And we're just like 2020, man, 2020. But it was quite an affair last night. The 2020 presidential debates are now in the books. They're done. Last night was the final debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And right off the bat, it was a little bit less bombastic and insane than the first debate. I think that whatever sedative the Trump campaign gave the president to get him to chill out a little bit was working. What did you think right off the bat, generally, your overall thoughts about the tone and tenor of the debate this time?
So we had heard a little bit that they were going to try to make President Trump come off more likable, a little bit more mellow. And so, he may have gotten that advice going into the first debate. I don't know. He clearly didn't listen to them if he did get that advice in the first debate. But this time it was clear that he was listening to the people he's hired, essentially, to try to tone down his Trumpiness quite a bit. I also think that the fact that his microphone was muted when Vice President Biden was speaking also had a significant impact on the fact that the debate had a much more civil tone. It was much more, instead of them talking over each other constantly, we saw that, it was Biden talks and then Trump talks and then Biden talks and then Trump talks. And it's like, what a concept for a presidential debate. So I think that the fact that he knew he wouldn't be heard if he spoke probably factored in quite a bit, and you could sort of tell that he was annoyed by the format. I also want to say that it was very well moderated. I thought that Kristen Welker did a really excellent job of keeping everyone within their time, keeping everyone on target, on topic, sort of moving things along. So I think that in terms of sort of how the debate went, it was a lot better. President Trump did his best performance out of the debate, the previous debate in the town hall, but ultimately that's not saying a whole lot. It's just showing that he knows how to be a grown up when he needs to be.
I mean, maybe. I think a lot. I think the bar has been set just so low for Donald Trump that he's able to get up on a debate stage and spew a litany of lies string together incoherent sentences that come off like babble, referencing numbers that don't make sense, that he's pulling out of thin air. You get billions and billions of it's X. If I ever have to hear the man say millions and millions or billions and billions ever again, I think the bar was just set so absolutely low. Exactly. It was just set so low that if he is able to stand upright and not scream into the microphone like a deranged banshee, that people are like, oh, it's the best of his debates. But what we're seeing on the debate stage is not normal. And I do want to fact check the president in just a minute, but we do have some people chiming in. We've got Shivani, Mark Goldman saying hello from Los Angeles. Carmen Adams is saying good morning. Hello. Shivani in Brooklyn. Hi. Amy Bollinger is saying Trump was impeached for a reason. 37% do not get it. Fox state media, Pravda style brainwashing did its job. Traitors, Putin won. It's a little bit cynical, but there might be something to that about the way that the conservative state media has sort of propped this president up. We've got a hello from Paris. And Mr. Messi says Trump was chilled last night because he made such a bad impact in the first debate. So, like I said, Miranda, that there was just a litany of lies that came out of Donald Trump, although his demeanor was a little more reserved. The substance of what he was saying was still fairly abnormal. And one of the strategies that the Trump campaign has been trying to deploy here is to impugn Hunter Biden, who is Joe Biden's only living son. In the last debate, he referenced that Hunter Biden had a cocaine problem. In this debate, he started to try to reference this New York Post story that really intelligence agencies are saying sounds a lot like Russian misinformation. There's a lot of shadiness about the way the New York Post obtained the story. What were your thoughts about this specific tactic that the Trump campaign has been employing about going after Hunter Biden?
So I don't think that it's a strategy that's going to pay off for them. I don't think that that's what suburban women or white working class people in Michigan are here to listen for. I think that one of the things that, one of the debate guests that the president had was someone who I actually had to Google, and I'm extremely, well informed about politics, and, very much a political junkie who's glued to Twitter. And a lot of us were like, who is this? And I think that, and it was someone who was tied to the Hunter Biden stuff. And so I think that the fact that he thought that these kinds of things would matter is really a reflection of how glued to Fox News he is, and sort of how glued he is to the, OAN and Gateway and Breitbart conspiracy theory type world in which, certain things seem like a really big deal, but at the end of the day, what do voters care about? They care about the pandemic, they care about the economy, they care about healthcare, and so right now the president is trailing and significantly in the polls, both nationally and in a lot of swing states. And so what he really needed to do was to try to turn things around and try to win over undecideds and say, come back, don't go from me to Biden. And I don't think that a Hunter Biden story is the way to do that. And I mean, I'm sort of trying to be understated right now, but I think it's a really absurd way to win over people. It's really just a base strategy. And what's clear from the polls is that he doesn't have enough of a base to win.
Yeah, I was watching the debate with my mom, and she was just looking at me and said, I don't understand. That's my mom's accent. I don't understand. I guess I'm not going to vote for Hunter Biden, and I think that's a great point. And
it's Florida like this.
Yeah, I don't know, and I think for people who are a little bit nauseated by the personal attacks on his son, when you're dealing with a person, Joe Biden, who has demonstrated, and this is really a central focus of his campaign, is to demonstrate his empathy and his kindness, that going for his family member, knowing the personal tragedy that he's experienced in his life, it feels icky. Is like the best adjective I can find to describe it.
Yeah,
But
I don't think that people in general like going after the candidates' kids. I think it's a really distasteful way for anyone to be basing their campaign. Yeah.
yeah, and it feels like the Trump campaign is trying to recreate the perfect storm that got him elected in 2016 by just using lots of buzzwords like emails and corruption. And I think Donald Trump did a great, or excuse me, Joe Biden did a great job of responding to that by saying, "Why don't you stop talking about corruption until we see your tax returns?"
Right.
Um, I think it was all in all a good night for Joe Biden, but I want to fact check a little bit of the lies that Donald Trump employed last night. First of all, he repeated his repeated claim that coronavirus is going away. He said the vaccine is ready. 99% of persons affected with coronavirus will recover. 2.2 million people were expected to die from COVID-19. He told us that injecting bleach statement was just a joke, that travel to China was banned in January 2020, that the Mueller report was that it showed he was not participating in any wrongdoing. Nancy Pelosi was dancing in the streets of San Francisco was a particularly fond visual for me, but not a true statement. And that Biden received $3.5 million from Russia. Biden is going to push through socialist medical programs if elected. Just some of the lies I was able to clock as I was watching the debate. Did any of these claims seem particularly outrageous to you? And what was the one that seemed most sort of stood out most to you?
So there are two. One of them is that he kept trying to characterize Joe Biden as embracing socialized medicine, and Joe Biden had to say, like, I beat the other candidate. You're trying to make me out to be this Bernie type, and I'm he's standing here because I beat out these other people because I don't agree with them. And so the idea that expanding on the Affordable Care Act and then having a public option is socialized medicine is absolutely ludicrous. People can keep their private employer based plans if they want to. The other thing that really stood out for me and that I thought was a particularly inhuman response was when they brought up the family separation of immigrant children, and he was asked, how do you have a plan to reunite these 545 children who we've torn from their parents? And he just said, "Oh well, they're being well taken care of. They're being taken care of well." And this idea that the United States government is doing a good job of taking care of these people who we've stolen from their families was really outrageous and just a truly inhuman response to an egregious tragedy that the United States government has participated in.
Yeah, it was such a callous way of sort of brushing off what is one of the most disturbing things to come out of this presidency. We have a comment from a viewer. How do you know Biden didn't receive $3 million? That's easy. He has released 22 years of his tax returns, and I'll note Donald Trump has released none, still claims he's under audit, and that's what's precluding him from releasing his tax returns, even though an IRS audit does not preclude one from releasing their tax returns. And now we know from the New York Times that Donald Trump actually pays more taxes to governments like China and other foreign countries than he does in the United States, and that he owes $421 million to an unknown entity. Which one, I can only guess, Miranda, and I'm sure you have some speculation to that end as well. But the really troubling financial information that came out about Donald Trump. And then Joe Biden, of course, did a good job of saying last night that stop talking about corruption, release your tax returns. Let's see them. And I'm not holding my breath. We've got another comment. Oh, it was a good one, but you guys are scrolling so fast. I'm trying to catch them as they go.
I saw one comment about this strangeness that how he kept claiming he was the least racist person in the room. It's just like, this is being moderated by a woman of color, at minimum. but also we have this huge body of evidence to support the racism of President Trump, and that was another strange claim that was made more than once last night.
Yeah, all in all, just a very strange performance. And some of the other things that I found strange about Donald Trump's performance last night was in his discussion about climate change. And I tweeted you right as this happened last night. It's like Joe Biden's taking that seriously. He wants to create green, clean energy jobs, make this an innovative part of the way America moves forward, while also taking a very proactive stance on climate change. Donald Trump's response about what his position is on climate change policy is a trillion tree program, which I've never really heard of, and quote, just lots and lots of programs, but nothing real substantive coming out of him on that. And then he goes on to these tangents that, again, trying to report on it is difficult because it's sort of stringing together words that don't even make sense. But he's talking about they want to create small windows, buildings with little small windows. It's not the first time he's gone off about the Democrats and our attempts to create small windows, how he knows much more about air than Joe Biden. Joe Biden did get a zinger about how Donald Trump thinks that windmills cause cancer, which is something that Donald Trump has said. What did you think about this climate change discussion that happened last night? Something that is probably the most existential threat to American national security and to the well-being of the planet.
So I missed the small window aspect of the Democrats' 2020 platform. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. I don't know. I didn't see this. I was a little lost with some of the claims that he was making. I think that obviously he has this idea of, well, we just need more trees. That nonsense. I mean, trees are great, but that's not going to reverse climate change. I think that when we want to understand the president's views on climate change, we need to look not at these sort of rambling debate responses, but what has he done? He took us out of the Paris Climate Accords, and he was his first EPA administrator, someone who prided himself on suing the EPA because it had the temerity to enforce EPA delegating legislation to enforce EPA rules. And so I think that these are both things where, we can look and see that he doesn't care about climate change. He doesn't view it as an existential threat. He's housing in the Environmental Protection Agency people who are not only not taking climate change seriously, but aggressively hostile to environmental regulations. And so I think that that's the real game, and it's clear from his answers in the debate that he doesn't really have an understanding of climate science. And what I think is more disturbing than a lack of understanding about climate change is his lack of curiosity in this existential threat.
Miranda, I've got a comment from a viewer that I just think is it's really got my wheels turning here. I'm going to chew on this and I'm going to ask it to you. These people need to stop dividing people and focus on positives from both sides. This is you and me. These people is you and me. I haven't heard them say one positive thing about Trump. Miranda, you have a positive thing to say about Trump?
One thing I did say a positive thing about Trump. I said that his demeanor was a lot more professional during the debate. I think when he listens to his advisors, he's capable of acting like a normal politician. I think the challenge is that he's not well constrained. I also don't think that he is. This is a positive coming from the perspective of a liberal, but I actually don't think that he really believes in a lot of the policies that he is bringing up. I think that he's fundamentally motivated not by policy, but by power. I think he's very Machiavellian, and not as much as Mitch McConnell, but I think that he cares a lot more about power than he does about policy. And so I think that a lot of the most egregious policies that we've ascribed to him have been because he has put in positions of authority people who are seeking to expand his power, and those people happen to have very extreme views. So,
yeah, one thing I'll say is a positive thing about Donald Trump is he has achieved a successful peace agreement in the Middle East. But that's all I got for you, sir. That's all I got. So, Miranda, I wanted to play a little bit of the closing argument last night that came up between the candidates. I think it is sort of the most telling takeaway about what we're getting in these candidates. So I'm going to play that for our viewers now. So, Miranda, thoughts on that closing argument?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that the president likes to say in the response to arguments about racism is saying that there's lower Black unemployment, lower unemployment for Hispanic individuals, lower unemployment for women as a defense against sexism. And I think that we really need to acknowledge the fact that, first of all, unemployment is not the only metric of bigotry. And secondly, he's put in power people who, are not exactly on the side of anti-discrimination laws. So there are a lot of challenges with this argument that, well, if we just look at the unemployment rate, then everything is fine. There's also just the reality that we're dealing with a significant pandemic that is not only not going away, but is actually worsening in many parts of the country. Unemployment's going to go up. Underemployment is going to go up. And so there are a lot of different economic metrics, and he's really sort of clinging to this one that doesn't really capture the damage that he's done to this country.
We have a lot of people commenting. I'm trying to keep up with you. You guys on Reddit are so poorly behaved. So much fighting on Reddit. Can't we all just get along? But a lot of people chiming in. We have one comment saying that he thought that Joe Biden's strongest portion of the night was the closing, although the comment says, though Trump excels at debating, it was a strong finish for Joe Biden. And now I just want to chime in to say that when you're not constrained by facts or truth, it's probably pretty easy to have what appears to be a good debate performance. And that's one of the most unconventional things about this presidency and their relationship to facts and truth. We got another pandemic is worsening across the globe fact, and lots of just very, very engaged commenters this morning. But Miranda, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you and support you?
I'm on Twitter at Miranda Yaver. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
It's a good time. I tweet her on the daily. This has been the AM Report with Alex Mahaja for HAPS News, the network of now. We are live every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern with all of your quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, please consider sponsoring it. Visit me at haps.tv/@Alex and consider buying me a cup of coffee. We will see you all next week on Monday, and have a great weekend. Thank